Welcome to Hockey Unfiltered, a podcast with Ken Campbell. I'm here with the man himself, the legend, the hockey outsider, as it were. And we're going to be talking about 2021, a great year if you're a fan of, global pandemics. And lots of crazy storylines to get to. So without further ado, little further ado, we'll get to the show. So before we get started, Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing great. If I were any better, I'd want to be twins. I have a podcast.
You have a podcast?
I have a podcast.
The perfect...
That makes me one of, what,
4 billion people?
Yeah.
Yeah. You are now part of the majority of the human race in that you have a podcast.
And I'm opening my ceremonial Diet Coke. So
Did you shake that up
the
before?
nectar of the gods. No, I wouldn't do that.
We'll shake them up at the end of the first episode and spray them all over ourselves. We did it! Yeah, much like the Leafs after the 93, the Leafs fans were like, yeah, that was our year.
Yeah.
We came closer than we did.
2002, I remember I was in the dressing room after the Leafs beat Ottawa to go to the conference final. And Alexander McGillney, it was his first year on the team.
Yeah.
And he had just won the cup with New Jersey, I think the year before. And so he's sitting there and we're talking to him and he's looking around and he's just got the most bewildered look on his face I've ever seen.
Right.
And he's like, what's the big deal? Like, why is everybody so excited?
Yeah.
We only made it halfway through the playoffs. And I was like, you really are new around here, aren't you? And he was like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I remember that playoff run well, living in Toronto. We had to watch it all on the bunny ears and the,
Yeah.
That was, they got knocked out by Philly that year, right?
No, they got knocked out by Carolina in the conference final.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 2002 is when Carolina won the cup.
Philly was 2004 when Jeremy Roenick scored in overtime. And
that's
then,
right.
And then the lockout after that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great times.
The years that the Leafs almost came close to winning something. Halcyon days, to be sure.
The hallowed halls of the early Air Canada Center.
Yeah.
So why don't we jump into a few of these questions?
Right on.
You sent me these last night. I love them.
Good.
The first one I've got is, which goal was more spectacular? Connor McDavid for dummying the 4 New York Rangers, and you called it the Zegras
Dishigan. Because, the Michigan.
Yeah, the Michigan that you dished
the
it.
Dishigan. I can't take credit for that. I read that on Twitter somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I cannot take credit for giving it that name, but I think it's a great name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which one do you pick?
Oh, for me it's Connor McDavid.
Really?
Yeah. Just because
we get to argue right off the top then here, because I'm going to say Dishigan, but
excellent. Well, that makes for good TV, doesn't it?
Yeah. If we have to blow off enough steam, we'll just fist fight.
You're wrong, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, tell me why I'm wrong.
No, for me it was just it was at that point in the game they were down 5-4 to the New York Rangers. It was the night Kevin Lowe had his sweater retired, and it's a sweater, not a jersey. He had his number retired, and it was just like it was in the moment, It was late in the game, and I watched it again last night. So he gets the puck, and Puljujärvi is like on top of Shesterkin at this point,
right
in his crease.
Yeah.
So Puljujärvi has to get out, and so McDavid rags the puck and keeps a hold of it until Puljujärvi gets out, and then he just goes nuts, right? Goes through like 4 guys, like they were skating, on his heated driveway. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like he just beats all those guys, and then dekes Shesterkin and goes upstairs. And to me, it was just so in the moment. I mean, the Zegras goal was a pretty big one too. It was 0-0, and I think they ended up winning that game 2-1 or something.
Yeah.
But to me, it just, that embodied sort of what Connor McDavid has, that kind of, to me, it embodied Connor McDavid in 2021.
Right.
Like if you wanted to make a statement about, what was 2021 with respect to Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
You just point to that play and it's like, yeah, he did that, and he did that kind of stuff for a year.
Right. That's a good point. I kind of took the context out of it in terms of how I graded these goals. And I would say that the reason why Zegras is because, first of all, I'm going to be referencing a defunct theory, which is the bystander effect, right? And it's considered a defunct theory because there was a lot of circumstances that led to that thing that led to the writing of the bystander effect. But the idea
is it defunct because I've never heard of it? You smart guys.
If we had to defunct every theory, that you'd never. But the point is that it's like you had four guys that almost all expected the next guy to do it. Right. Yeah. Everybody was just kind of reaching. They weren't really, you know what I mean? If somebody turned to the next guy and said, hey, you and me, we're doing this. And you know what I mean? And then of course, as a goaltender, I'll be honest, I've been in that situation where I'm not getting a shot here. And then you get the shot and you go, oh, wow, I got that. That's insane. Yeah. So it's not to take away from Connor McDavid, because I hate it when people do that. I remember when Bobrovsky made that save on Jakob de la Rose and he was just flying across the crease and people were like, well, De La Rose needs to release the puck faster. It's like, are you kidding me, man? This guy flew across the crease 12 feet in 1/1000th of a second, a hummingbird's wing flap. And you're like, Jakob de la Rose should have shot the puck faster. So I am doing the thing that bothers me. But in terms of the Zegras, it's actually the Sonny Milano goal, right?
Right.
But it was just like, first of all, you've got two teammates that just synced up in such a perfect, beautiful fashion, like synchronized swimming.
Yeah.
You know, if I cared at all about synchronized swimming.
Okay.
And the fact that, I don't know what a defender, like obviously in hindsight, I could tell you what a defender should do. But if I were a defender on the ice there.
Ask John Tortorella what a defender should do. He should wipe him out.
Yeah, you've actually kind of winked at one of my answers to my next question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I mean, they're both amazing goals, right?
Is there a wrong answer?
No, there's not.
Yeah.
Of course, there's not a wrong answer, but you're wrong.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question. What was the biggest on-ice story of the year for 2021?
Well, to me, again, it's Connor McDavid. He had 50 goals and 154 points in 85 games.
Welcome to Connor McDavid Unfiltered, starring Ken Campbell.
Yeah. No, to me, I mean, and the reason why I say that is that 2021 was the on-ice story for me in 2021, is that I believe, and I firmly believe this, and this is why I think it's such a shame that the NHLers aren't going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
I get why. I get why. I understand.
That was in an article recently.
In 2018, I thought it was stupid that they didn't go to the Olympics. In 2022, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I think it's such a tragedy. Not a tragedy. It's very, very unfortunate that NHLers aren't going to the Olympics, because I think in the calendar year of 2021, we may have seen one of the best players in the history of the game at the apex of his powers.
Right.
Like, I think this is the best.
Yeah.
Like, that's the best. Yeah. It's not getting any better from here.
Yeah.
Because he's 24 now. You know, pocket protector, geeky numbers guys will tell us that a player peaks at 25, right? Basically.
Yeah, pretty much these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we've seen the best of Connor McDavid. This 2021 may be the best
unless your name is Mark Giordano, at which point you peak at 38,
right,
or Mike Smith, where you peak at 28 and then 38, and maybe 48.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But to me, it was just the best of one of the best players that we'll ever see, one of the most dynamic players we'll ever see, one of the most talented players we'll ever see. 2021 was his year.
Yeah. I mean, how do you disagree with something like that? But I will. I would say that the on-ice story for 2021, obviously, like, I think it's got to be like Montreal's run to the Cup final. And a big reason why is not just because they made a run to the Cup final, but
because of the train wreck that happened afterwards too.
well, you know what?
Seriously.
I thought about saying that, but I thought I'm going to take the positive because
Okay.
obviously I cover Montreal outside of this podcast. And so
Okay.
I've written and spoken more than enough about the train wreck that is the 2021-22 Montreal season.
Right.
That's kind of out of my system. But I started trying to put myself into this actual calendar year. And I started thinking about the fact that, like, remember when Thornton and Marlowe and that San Jose team went to the Cup final, and it was just like all of hockey was rooting for them.
They were, yeah.
Because and they were against Pittsburgh, right? They played against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And like Price and Weber kind of have that mysticism about that of some of the best players to never win a cup.
Yeah.
And so Weber, like when they beat the Golden Knights, that was the furthest he's ever gone in a playoff series. And you're like, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just that it was a good underdog story. And it wasn't just that, I recorded, I don't know if you heard it. I recorded I ain't going to work on Megan's farm no more because I ain't going to listen to those experts no more.
Okay.
Just for fun.
Okay.
But like, it wasn't just that it was the underdog story. And it wasn't just that it was, the team that I follow and cheer for and all the rest of it. But it was the fact that, like, you finally saw Price and Weber just say, that's it. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And all due respect to the rest of the team and of course Philippe Deneau and these guys, but you saw Price and Weber just turn around and say, hey, you know what? We can still be the best at our positions. And that was shocking as a guy who watched Weber play in the regular season and Price himself.
And Price too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
See, to me, I'm with you on that story. I mean, it was a huge story, but to me, what makes the story so compelling and so incredible is I think the postscript to it.
Right.
And that is that
they sucked.
They from that point on, from the end of game 4 until now, it's just been one terrible thing after another that they've either done or had done to them. Yeah. That's just like, and now they're a lottery team. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah. To me, that's what makes the story compelling. Yeah. Like, cause a lot of teams do that, right? Right. A lot of teams go to the final and they overachieve, and we all knew they weren't going to win. Yeah. I mean, I knew they weren't going to beat Tampa in the final. I knew it. Yeah. And I knew it in the fiber of my being. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but a lot of teams do that, but they don't, and then they come back and they're obviously not as good as they were for, 2 months. Yeah. The previous season. But wow, this fall from grace has just been stunning.
Shocking.
It's been stunning.
Yeah. And the thing that people forget about this fall from grace is that Jake Allen is playing as well statistically and by my personal opinion on eye test as Carey Price played in the last season. So you're getting the same goaltending.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Price isn't the solution here. It's like, it's so beyond that. And it's so systemic is the issue, because Weber wasn't very good. You could argue during the regular season, you could argue that he was an active detriment to his team during the regular season. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, it's all good, fine and good to say that those guys, you take them out of the lineup and that hurts. And maybe the leadership, it hurts a lot, but I mean, it is stunning. I didn't see it coming. Well, I knew that they weren't going to be Stanley Cup good, but I didn't see this coming.
Well, I mean, the Canadians were going to have to move on from Shea Weber anyway. Right? Like, I mean,
hey, he's under contract until he's 40.
Yeah, no,
they don't have to move on until
not move on from him, but somebody was going to have to pick up the mantle there, Yeah. Like, so it was going to have to be Cole Caulfield. It was going to have to be those younger, those younger guys, Nick Suzuki, and Suzuki started out well and that, but those guys were going to have to pick it up. Yeah. And they didn't. Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest off-ice story of the year?
No question to me. No question at all. It's the Kyle Beach situation. I mean, you look at the domino effect of how many people lost their jobs, of what kind of sort of impact this had on the hockey world, how it made us examine the culture of hockey and the culture of secrecy around hockey and the power imbalance that exists in hockey. Yeah. I can't tell you how many people were saying, like, like Kyle Beach was a 6'4", 200 and something pound guy, and Brad Aldrich was my size, 5'6", 150. Why didn't he just fight? Well, because there's a power imbalance. It's a power imbalance.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, so I think that in hockey was a real teachable moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a real teachable moment.
Yeah.
We learned that it doesn't matter how big and how strong and how good you are and how high you get picked in the draft.
Yeah.
You know, if something like this happens, it can ruin a person. Yeah. And it's happened before, and it almost went under the radar this time, you know, until Kyle Beach spoke up.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge watershed moment for the NHL, and it's going to have ripple effects for years and years to come.
I think, you know, I was reading your article on your Hockey Unfiltered Substack about Kyle Beach, and you know, you're writing a lot about him as the player and as the person he was, and what really occurred to me, and if I can be blunt, this is unfiltered, right?
Yep.
If you've got a guy, and pardon who's a sicko, right? Like Aldrich was. And obviously this is a power play dynamic sicko thing. Kyle Beach was kind of like the obvious candidate in the sense that, like, what people are now starting to understand, like you alluded to, people are now seeming to understand about sexual assault is that it's not the gratification, it's the power.
Right.
And so for him, you know, he's not, you know, pardon the old cliche, but it's like, you know, punching out the biggest guy in the prison yard, right? He's going for Kyle Beach because of that exact thing. And so people that think that they're exempt, or people like Kyle Beach should be exempt from situations like this, don't understand the fact that those are the people that are actually being sought out.
Right. I mean, the vulnerable, right?
Creating the seemingly invulnerable and making them vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really
to me it was the story of, it should be the story of the year. And I think Kyle Beach is one of the most influential people in hockey in 2021. Yeah. I really do. I think he's shaken the game to its core.
Yeah. So for mine, I'm going to go a little bit back to the well of the Montreal Canadiens. And I think that this dovetails so nicely with the Kyle Beach story, and that's the Logan Mailloux thing.
Right.
And so for those that didn't follow it that closely, Logan Mailloux was drafted, and there was an outcry on Twitter. Now, an outcry on Twitter, you say? Yeah. Well, now things are getting done. Yeah. But the outcry was incredible because for me, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to sound wishy-washy, like I straddle the lines, but, like, you know, I read a lot of traditional journalism. I'm part of what you would call alternative media. I go back and forth through all of that. And there's normally a lot of enmity between the traditional media guys and the, you know, but everybody, like, to a person, was speaking out against Logan Mailloux and that draft choice and how bad that was. And your article was fantastic about it, which really helped bring into focus some of the thoughts that I was having that were kind of whirling around my head, which is that it's not about Logan Mailloux. Yeah,
you said people were speaking, and I'm sure you didn't mean it that way, that they were speaking out against Logan Mailloux.
Right.
I think they were speaking out against Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
For making that pick.
And a culture that deemed that as okay.
Yeah, right.
And so I think that was brilliant to me. And but the reaching implications was Saint-Hubert threatened to pull their sponsorship.
Right.
Then Jeff Molson has to write an open letter. And now we've seen Bergevin fired, Timmins fired, and what's his name fired and walked away, right? The head of PR and the other assistant general manager.
Paul Wilson.
That's right. Yeah. So my point is that, like, all of a sudden, I think that the hockey world between Logan Mailloux and Kyle Beach, you know, I'm kind of picturing the conversation between Bergevin and Molson, and it's, hey, we're going to draft that Kyle Beach kid. Is there issues about him? Nothing we can't handle. Right?
Yeah, Logan Mailloux, you mean? You said
Logan
Kyle
Mailloux,
Beach.
pardon me. Right, nothing we can't handle. And then all of a sudden, it is something that you can't handle, right? And
I really hope the conversation wasn't that quick. I really hope it wasn't. It might have been.
You don't think it was?
maybe I don't. I hope it wasn't.
Yeah.
I hope they said, we could really be in for it here. And I mean, Jeff Molson was like talking about second chances and that sort of thing. I hope at least they talked about that part of it.
I think that was retroactive. I think that was damage control.
Yeah, you may be very well be right. And Bergevin comes out, and I'm sitting there on the draft, and it's remote, of course, because everything's remote now. And I think I was talking to the guy Washington picked, to Hendrix Lapierre. Was that
okay? Yeah.
Yeah. So he's in the middle of his thing, and I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, and I see Marc Bergevin on there. The Habs select, the Canadians select Logan Mailloux in the first round. And I was like, well, there goes my night, and then he comes on right after, and he says, what Logan Mailloux did was unacceptable.
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Clearly, it was
I know,
not.
I feel that way.
Clearly, it was not unacceptable because you accepted it. You know what I mean? And so...
If you look at the root words of unacceptable, it's
unacceptable is defined by Webster as not acceptable.
Yeah, the old Princess Bride joke. You keep on using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
So anyways, that was a gong show.
I think that's a shot across the bow of every front office now that thinks that the world is the same, where we can just, take Nick Cousins. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a shot across the bow. And so Kyle Beach and Logan Mailloux happening on the same year is like such an interesting confluence of events, where I think that it's going to spark so much social change. Like to the point where normally we would see 10 years it take to see this much social change.
Yeah.
And we might see that all happen in the blink of an eye, which is great for my generation that wants everything to happen in the blink of an eye.
Well, it's certainly pushing things, pushing the agenda forward. Yeah.
Biggest blunder of 2021.
Okay, well, for me, I mean, it was. I also had the Logan Mailloux thing in there, but to me, it was two things. It was a tie for me, and they both were born out of tone deafness.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Number one was Logan Mailloux.
Right.
That was like incredibly tone deaf. The other was the NHL hiring this kid by the name of Josh Richards to be their voice of the fans or something.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Like he was, what did they, like, special consultant for
TikTok or something.
Stuff. Yeah. So anyways,
something useless like podcasting or something. So here's me at the time, a 58-year-old guy who's basically doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to look into this. And so somebody had said, yeah, well, he has a podcast with Dave Portnoy. Right.
And so I'm looking into it, and I play a couple of them, and I see they do this game called F, Marry, or Kill, right? And they pick three women, and he has to F one, marry one, and kill one.
Yeah.
And so, like, I guess this is all the rage with kids, because I actually hadn't even heard of that game before that.
Yeah.
And then I talked to my kids about it.
Yeah.
My kids are 25 and 21.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah, people do that, play that game all the time. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But to me, like, is that the look you want? Like,
it's
especially
unreal.
when you come out and you're like, hockey's for everyone. 2 days before they had announced a $5 million initiative to, be inclusive and all this other stuff. And then they hire this guy, and it's like, words, not words and deeds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Deeds mean more than words.
Yeah.
And to me, it just seemed completely tone deaf. Either that, or they just didn't do their due diligence on the guy.
Yeah.
And my point was, if that's the case, again, going back, I'm the 58-year-old guy who's scared of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what I'm doing when I'm doing this. And I found it.
Yeah.
How difficult could it have been?
They needed to hire a consultant to hire their consultant is what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I've heard of it before. I've heard of the game before. I've thought it quite odd that it's considered a game to discuss who you would murder.
Yeah, and apparently women. And apparently,
it was big
I've been
with
told
Ted Bundy,
right? Yeah, and I've also been told it's apparently women play it too. So it's not just a misogynist thing.
Yeah.
It's like women play it and they pick three men. So but Anyways.
Not an ideal look.
Not an ideal look for the NHL. No.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, first red flag is he's with the guys who do Barstool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you want to, if you're trying to portray the notion that you're inclusive and that you're, hockey's for everyone.
Yeah.
You may want to distance yourself from someone like that.
Hockey's for everyone. We want to make sure that the white supremacists feel at home here. We want to make sure that the misogynists, we got to cover all of the bases here. Yeah.
Yep.
I love how it's like our first podcast episode and we're like, hey, let's just fire a shot across the bow of like the #1 rated podcast, Barstool, Spittin' Chicklets. Let's just, let's just throw it out there. We'll tell them how it's done.
Okay.
For me, the biggest blunder, and now it seems like nothing. I wish I went first because now mine just seems like stupid. But I was going to say Jack Eichel and the handling of Jack Eichel.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I'm picturing the sales call. Okay. So here I am. Okay. I'm, what's his name? The GM of Buffalo.
Kevin Adams.
Kevin Adams. That's right. I almost said Jack Adams and I knew that was wrong. So I'm Kevin Adams and I say, Jack, you're not getting that surgery because I think it's dangerous and I don't think that it's going to be good for you. Right. And Jack's pissed, but whatever. I'm Kevin Adams. Right. And then he picks up the phone and he says, hey, you want Jack Eichel? Oh, he's so good. And he's so close. And all he's got to do is get this surgery that we don't want him to get. And then he's going to be that #2 draft pick right behind Connor McDavid, second best player in the NHL that he was always supposed to be. And it's like your whole actions, like all of your actions in not allowing him to get that surgery screamed, I don't think that this is a safe surgery. But then you expected a return.
Right.
As if it was a completely safe surgery. Right?
Okay.
It'd be like you go to a dealership and they've got like a Corvette and they say like, they say, we want $150,000. Well, can I open the hood? No, it might not have an engine. Really? Yes, this is our car. It may or may not have an engine, but we expect the full sticker price of what this vet would be worth. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it just seemed like so bizarre. I think that all things being considered, they got a great package in return for him.
I think Alex Tuch is going to fit in there when he comes back from his injury. I think he is going to be outstanding, and I love that he got up in his first press conference and said, I want to be here. I'm from near here. This is amazing. I think he's going to be great for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's an underappreciated player. Like when he was drafted, there was a lot of rage about him, but I don't know where that died down, I guess. Probably just the injury. See,
with Eichel too, I just get the sense that it was never a very good marriage. Yeah. It was always like a crappy marriage. So this kind of was
I have no idea what crappy marriages feel like.
Yeah, well, I'm on my second one, and this is a good one, but my first one, not so much. But I just feel like that was destined to end badly, regardless of how it ended. Right. So I wasn't surprised that that's how it ended. Yeah. And I mean, I get Buffalo. The CBA's right there. We have it. We have the CBA on our side. Yeah. If you don't like it, then change the CBA. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, that's a prime example of not following the spirit of the law, if you will. I don't think that particular part of the CBA was designed for major surgery. I think that it was probably put in to say that if some player came in and said, hey, I know I've got a broken leg, but I was thinking about just like rubbing some hemp oil on it and see how it, like, I think that was put in to protect teams from pseudoscience. Right. Yeah. But obviously this is not that.
Yeah, no, it's not. But if anybody thinks that, as misguided as they might have thought the Buffalo Sabres were, right? If anybody thinks that they did not, that the Buffalo Sabres at their core did not have Jack Eichel's best interests in mind, they're wrong. Yeah, they're just wrong. Yeah, the Buffalo. You can argue one way or another whether they were right, whether they were wrong, whether they should have let him have the surgery, whether they shouldn't have let him have the surgery, whatever. But they were doing what they thought was best for Jack Eichel. Because show me a GM who wants to squander away an asset like that.
Mark Bergevin.
Yeah. But they Kevin Adams at his core was doing what he thought was best for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
But what was best for Jack Eichel too, because what was best for Jack Eichel, whether he came back and played for them or they traded him, was best for the Buffalo Sabres.
I do agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I do agree with you on that. I do think that's kind of lost in the shuffle that people thought that, Kevin Adams was just trying to use him up and
not
chew
a
him
chance.
up. And
No
spit him
chance.
out.
And it's like I hear these things all the time that, the coach is doing this because he wants to screw a player or whatever. No, show me the coach that doesn't want to win every game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you don't just take these guys and play with their lives just to get your jollies, I mean, you're squandering assets when you do that.
Yeah.
You have an asset. You want to extract the most out of it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree with you. So you sent me this question and I do have a confession to make. You said,
which one was it?
You said, what's the 2021 equivalent of here? What's the 2021 equivalent of the Squid Games for the NHL?
Yeah, I thought I'd put a little bit of the kids with their pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've not watched the Squid Games, and I
didn't watch it either. But it was
really
apparently it was like all the rage, right?
It was all the rage. I didn't watch Tiger King either.
Neither did I. I watched about a half an hour of the first one, and I was like, this isn't compelling at all.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like stuff like that, like Survivor.
Right.
I've never watched Survivor.
No, neither have I.
I don't find schmoes compelling. Like, I don't want to escape. I don't want to escape and watch a bunch of schmoes like me.
I have to live in the skin of a schmo every day for my entire life. I don't need to see more schmoes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So anyways, so maybe it wasn't a must watch because neither of us watched it. But apparently it was like the big deal, right? Like,
yeah.
So anyways, that was the parallel I was making.
Yeah.
What's the NHL version of the Squid Games?
Yeah.
Squid Game. What was the must watch?
Oh, it's not plural.
It's not Squid Game.
Yeah. There's only one game, multiple squids.
Something like that. Yeah, Squid's Game. No? Squid pluralized is still squid.
Screaming at us right now. There are just people screaming
squid
at us.
pluralized is still squid, I think. Yeah. Anyways, so what was the NHL equivalent of, like, what's the must watch?
Yeah. What's it called? Succession.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah. What was the NHL equivalent of Succession?
Right.
I'm watching.
For me, it would be what's the NHL equivalent of The Morning Show or Ted Lasso. That's it.
That's a good show.
I missed out.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been Squid Game. It should have been Ted Lasso. What's the NHL equivalent of Ted Lasso that you just could not miss?
So let's hear it. What's the NHL equivalent of Ted Lasso?
For me, it was Kayla Mccarthy.
Yeah.
I have to watch Colorado play because I have to watch him play.
Yeah. That's saying something that on the Colorado Avalanche, the person that you have to watch play, that you have to circle, is Kayla Mccarthy.
I love watching him play.
Yeah.
I like his game just seems to be progressing, more and more and more. And like, he's on a 44 goal pace right now.
Yeah.
45 goal pace. The way he walks the line, the way he shoots the puck, just, sort of the headiness to his game. It's just, to me, it's Scott Niedermayer.
It's
who
a shame
can score.
that he's small and he's just never going to be any good.
Yeah, right. To me, he's a Scott Niedermayer who produces more offense than Scott Niedermayer.
Yeah.
Like, I just love watching him play. And I really like watching the Winnipeg Jets play too. But as far as like the one guy, like if there's 6 games on, and Colorado's playing, I'm focusing on the Colorado game because I just want to see what Kayla Mccarthy is going to do.
Interesting. So if I have an answer to this, I do have an answer to this question, but if we're going to go by the original question, what's the NHL Squid Games, as in something that I should watch, but I've never watched.
Okay.
I keep on wanting to get more into the New York Rangers.
Right.
Because they're just so compelling to me, but I've not been watching their games live.
Right.
But I'll just go with the most basic answer. The most obvious answer is just Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just, I kept on trying to big brain it and come up with some really interesting, explanation for something. And it's just like, how about the guy who's the best guy in the world at the best we've ever seen him play? And if he doesn't score for 2 games and the world is the sky is falling down. Like, we have not seen a guy like this and trailing not far behind him. And this is the honest truth, although it's not being, sorry?
Is his teammate.
No, I was going to say is Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
He's one of these guys where he doesn't seem to be appropriately rated.
Okay.
In the sense where a lot of people seem to think that everyone thinks he's the best. And he's obviously not the best, but I think that there's a real argument for him being the second best player in the NHL.
Okay, we have to untangle. I feel like I just got thrown a bunch of iPod earbud cords, and I have to untangle all of that.
Yeah.
So
for the kids listening, earbuds used to have cords like this, right? And you'd have to, tangle them.
Okay, so people think he's the best, but because they think he's the best, they don't think he's the best.
I don't think that anyone thinks. I don't think that anyone thinks he's the best. I don't think that anyone thinks he's the best.
Right.
But I think that people think that other people think he's the best. Okay. And so they go. And so what they do is they wind up underrating.
I'm learning a lot about you. One of them is that I'm starting to have regrets.
I don't blame you. I don't at all blame you. The mental gymnastics aside, the verbal contortionism aside, my point is to say is that I think that he gets underrated because he's perceived as overrated. But I genuinely think that we have not seen a guy that is this capable of scoring on demand. As Austin Matthews in the league. He might be better than Ovechkin. I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
I don't know. Will time will tell. Like if he can do this for another 3 years, if he puts up numbers like this in this NHL for another 3 years, I might be willing to say maybe not better, but maybe there.
And they both look a couple of years older than they actually are. That's interesting because I get it. I sort of get it. I'm sure a lot of people don't. And if you don't understand, then just move on.
Yeah. But, skip backwards, listen to the explanation a few times. It'll start to make sense.
No, but I've always gone the other way, like with guys who are so underrated that they're overrated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're saying it's the other way around. He's so overrated that he's actually underrated.
I think that people,
or people think
there's a perception of him being overrated. And so people underrate him. It's bizarre.
Okay. Yeah,
it's bizarre. But as a guy that spends a lot of time, I coach goaltending. And so I spend a lot of time with junior coaches and rep coaches. And they're all the venom that they have for Matthews. And I was like a Habs guy. I'm like, whoa, we'll take him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll give you everything.
Well, you can have him in 3 years or whatever it is.
He's going to Arizona.
Arizona won't exist. Well, the place will exist, but
no, the place will be burnt off the map.
No, it won't. Yeah. No, it actually will exist because the NHL will continue to traipse through the desert, fighting for a team, and it doesn't even know why anymore. and it's just going to keep propping up this team because that's what they've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if it doesn't work the first time, it should work any subsequent times, It's
gotten to the point where for me, I don't even know if Arizona would be a good hockey market anymore. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because the team's been so bad and so dysfunctional for so long that if you put that team in the Scotiabank Center, they'd struggle.
You should switch them with Colorado or something like that, just as a proof of concept to see if Colorado
give this market a good team for 3 years, and if nobody comes out,
then we'll see.
Then we'll see.
Yeah,
but I don't even know anymore. Yeah. Anyways, I digress.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Biggest WTF moment of the year.
Okay, for me it was during Gary Bettman's, and I got into it with him. Over
Did
it.
you?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
With my question. I got into it with him over it.
Somebody dared question the king?
Yes. Yeah, I do it all the time. For me, it was Gary Bettman's he always does the State of the Union before the final, right?
Yeah.
And so he comes out before the final and he says that NHL officials are the best in the world at officiating hockey, and they're the best in all of sports.
Of course.
Read the room. Seriously, this came a month and a half after you basically had to prematurely end Tim Peel's career because he got caught in a hot mic managing a game, know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just watched the playoffs and I watched infraction after infraction after infraction get ignored. And to me, it's like when he came out speaking of Arizona, when he comes out, 2 weeks ago and says there's
no problem in the desert.
There are no issues in Arizona.
Yeah.
Shut up. Like, okay, if you want to say, if you want to fight for Arizona,
yeah,
and you want to fight for that market, that's one thing.
We're going to work through it.
Yeah. The other, that's one thing.
We believe in the market.
But to
we're going to work
sit
through
there and say that a team that's had to renounce a draft pick, got caught in a recruiting scandal, is a drain on revenues, doesn't have a place to play next year, is getting kicked out of its arena, and is behind on its payments.
Yeah.
To say there are no issues.
Yeah.
Like, come on. How stupid do you think people are?
Yeah, the trouble is that Gary Bettman didn't donate the $3 to Wikipedia. So he's lost access. He's lost his privilege of Wikipedia.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's what the trouble is, because a very quick Wikipedia search, I think, will...
Maybe the Arizona thing was a bigger WTF than the ref thing. Like now that I look at it in review, in totality, maybe the Arizona thing was a bigger what the...
Your podcast.
Not going there yet. It's only the first one.
Early days.
We're going to sell this thing.
Yeah. Then we'll have nowhere to go but down. Yeah. We've got to leave them wanting more. I think, so it's funny because my thought was immediately with officiating as well.
Yeah.
And this one, it's just so funny. It's the league's crackdown on cross-checking.
Oh, okay.
It's it's so unbelievable. Penalties are down.
Cross-checking penalties are down?
No.
Oh, just penalties? Yeah.
Penalties in general. I don't know what the numbers are specifically for cross-checking, but my point is, it happens constantly. And what bothers me about cross-checking specifically, and, look, I'm shooting the golden goose, right? As, just watching a team go to the Stanley Cup Finals based on the strength of their cross-checking. But my point is that, like, what bothers me specifically is that they're like, we don't want to call that really dangerous little cross-check where you put somebody into the boards, they go into the boards head first, and they eat the dasher.
The one in front of the net, too, they really didn't want that one.
I don't even mind the one in front of the net that much.
See, what they were saying was because... Like, a guy gets cross-checked, and I just saw it the other night again, especially on the power play. A guy gets cross-checked, guy takes a shot from the point. Ooh, almost. Look at this, eh? Look how good this is. Dylan's you're like a handyman, a carpenter type. And look at what he did here. So nice. Anyways, what they were worried about was the cross-check, and then the shot comes in, and the guy takes it in the face.
Right.
They were really worried about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems less likely than getting cross-checked, when you're standing a foot away from the boards and you get your face into the boards. Yeah. So my point is that they say we don't want to call that cross-check because we don't want guys drawing the penalty by throwing their face into the boards.
Yeah.
But then what they do call is when somebody slashes the top of somebody's stick and the guy drops his stick and he goes, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, that couldn't possibly be somebody selling a penalty." Right. So you mean to tell me that, like, by your twisted logic, it's okay to like somebody will sell a penalty by throwing his face into the boards, which maybe not, but they won't draw a penalty by just dropping their stick.
Right.
And so after the whole cut down on cross-checking, what do I see? More stick infractions. As far as I'm concerned, like, if it's not dangerous and it doesn't completely unduly hinder the star players of the game, then who cares?
Well, see, but it does, Dylan. That's the problem. And, because the problem is if you allow it, then the players push it and push it and push it, right?
Right.
So that little tap on the glove becomes a little harder, becomes a broken hand, becomes Johnny Gaudreau.
Okay, but that's dangerous.
Getting it, but
a smack on the stick isn't dangerous.
But a smack on the stick isn't dangerous. But then it goes, it sort of goes up exponentially because the players, like I've always said this, players just want to know how far they can go.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll go that far and they may try and push it a little further. Yeah. And so if there's no standard and there's no, there's nothing that says they can't go a certain distance, then they're just going to go all the way.
They're just going to do it.
Right. Yeah. So
you're not wrong about that. Like, that's for sure. You're not wrong about that.
I know.
Fine. I'll never admit that you're not wrong about something ever again. Yeah.
I know this to be true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you try it again without the quadruple negative? You're not entirely incorrect about that.
Quadruple negative would be a positive, right? Because it's even number.
It must be
even number on a negative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, let's keep her going.
All right. So, can you name one good thing that came out of the pandemic?
Yeah. No All-Star game.
But you love the All-Star game.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I've been to many of them.
Yeah.
I think the last 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a second of it.
Yeah.
Even though I've been there.
Yeah.
I just go for the access. I
cut out preseason and then
I absolutely hate the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So that was good. But in all seriousness, I will say that I think the one good thing that came out of the pandemic was the NHL and its players realized how much they missed having people in the stands. I think there have been times that players have taken fans for granted. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like they're kind of a pain, and they, the rich ones want to come down to the dressing room at the end of the game and come and meet us, and and all that other stuff, and that they they don't, there's been a culture of not really. Not caring about the fans, but not thinking of the fans. You know what I mean? Like with things like injury disclosure, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the NHL's really been in tune with the fact that when there's no people in the building and there aren't all those people there, it really takes away from the experience. Mm-hmm. And I think there's been a sense of gratitude for that.
Yeah.
From the league and from the players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's one thing that maybe you can say has been a good thing that's come out of the pandemic, maybe that's it.
You made me think of something funny about that specifically, which was, the lack of fans followed by, the individual provinces and states and how they opened up meant that for once the Florida Panthers had more fans than the...
they were leading the league in attendance for a while. Yeah.
The one that I'd say, and it kind of turned into a negative, but it was cool at the time, was the North Division. I was very much excited for the North Division. Yeah. I didn't end up liking it by the end of it. After you watch 4 games in 5 nights of Daryl Sutter's Calgary Flames taking on Dominic Ducharme's Montreal Canadiens in the defensive showdown of the century, you kind of go, you know what? Maybe I'm not great with this North Division, but it was interesting. I did enjoy aspects of it, and I feel like it's out of my system.
Good. Toward the end of the original 6 era in the NHL, when there were 6 teams, they played 70 games.
Oh, that's the original 6 era.
Which?
You said towards the end of the original 6 when there were 6 teams.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, when there were 6 teams.
When they had about 8 or 9 is when we stopped calling it the original 6 era.
And then there came the expansion era.
Yeah.
When they expanded. No, so at the end,
that's when the number went
towards
up.
the end of the 66-67 season.
Sure.
When they had 6 teams called the original 6 era, they had 70 games. 70 games in a season.
Right.
So you had 5 opponents.
Yeah.
Over 70 games.
And you wonder why it was more violent.
That's 14 times a year they played the same team.
Yeah.
14 times.
Yeah.
So we kind of got a bit of that last year. Like you got, because they, what was it, 10?
Yeah.
10 and
they played each other 10 times or something like that. Yeah.
But like, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow. Chicago again. Great.
Yeah. But they never had Daryl Sutter coaching.
Right.
So that's, I think, the big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Final question. From a hockey standpoint, what are you hoping for more than anything else in 2022?
Some normalcy. Like
from a hockey standpoint. Then.
No, and that's what I mean. Some normalcy, like an 82-game season, a full playoff. Maybe not having guys in COVID protocol all the time.
Yeah.
I get why they're there. I understand. We don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Just because you're a bunch of, very fit, healthy people who probably would never get, the negative effects of COVID affecting you
Right.
doesn't mean you live in a vacuum and that you don't end up seeing your family and your parents and your grandparents
Exactly.
and being in the community. So I get that. So I guess what I'm hoping for is an end to, to all of this madness and maybe some normalcy back so that we have a season that ends in probably July and then we start up again in September with training camp and we move on. That's kind of my hope.
Yeah. World Health Organization is suggesting that by the end of 2022, the pandemic should be over.
Right.
That
End of 2022.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're still like 14
Well, they
months,
said by
13
the
months.
end of, so I think that
13
this is
months,
not exactly a hard stop date.
Yay.
Yeah. So, but my point is to say is that, baby, right?
Yeah.
Because I imagine it won't just stop. It'll dwindle, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Everybody's done with their COVID cases. Yeah, get out of the ICU there. Get off that ventilator. What are you doing? Didn't you hear? The pandemic's over. I'd say that for me, just increased accountability. I think that, like we talked about it with Logan Mailloux, we talked about with Kyle Beach.
Yep.
I really think that front offices are going to be startled straight. I think that we're seeing this in almost all areas of industry, with when Volkswagen got caught, cheating with their emissions test, the emissions test scandal and stuff like that. I think that we're seeing we're seeing businesses start to realize that a higher level of accountability actually breeds better relationships with the people that are propping them up.
Yeah.
And we have yet to see that with Amazon, but other businesses, right?
Yeah.
I think are seeing that. And so I think that in hockey, I just hope to continue to see that. And as hard as it is and as upsetting as it is to read stories like this, I'm trying to frame it in my mind that if I read more stories like the Kyle Beach story, I'm going to take that as a positive, that the change is in motion, that even just the fact of those stories happening and being out there is part of that positive change.
The time of reckoning. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want one fun one that we didn't talk about before?
Sure.
In order to end this off on a lighter note than me talking about horrific scandals?
Yep. I'm down for that, as the kids would say. I'm smashing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. All right. Best theme song for a TV show. And it has to, oh yeah.
What are you doing? Like, how am I supposed to come up with that? Okay, for a TV show.
Yeah,
right?
for a TV show. And it has to be both a good song that you'd listen to and and go really well with the show.
Okay. Wow. Happy Days. That was great.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say hee-haw. Because it's just hee-hee-hee-haw-ha.
No way. Best theme song? Nah, no question. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. It's not like MASH, like the weirdly somber version of whatever.
Yeah,
and,
no. No, I'm gonna stay with the one I got. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a newer show, The Mandalorian. It's great. It's got this
Never watched it.
Lone Ranger type feel for it. And I love Star Wars and I love Westerns.
Yeah.
So you've got
Hawaii 502. Yeah, there's some good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Okay.
Ken, this was fun. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel even better than when I walked in.
That's good, because when you walked in, you were complaining about all kinds of different things.
I have a podcast.
You have a podcast.
It's amazing.
So for those listening, those that stuck with us, thank you so much for sticking around.
I just want to say, I've got this Substack thing going.
Oh, yes.
Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. You can Google that, or you can go to kencampbell.substack.com. We should probably mention that a few more times.
Oh, yeah.
In upcoming podcasts and not just wait till the end.
Well, presumably we'll be better at this as we do it more often.
I'm not not terribly confident of that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. If history has taught us anything, it's that we don't improve no matter what.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
no
ask
matter
my
the
wife.
circumstances.
Just ask my wife.
No, what I was going to say is for those that stuck with us, we appreciate it. And this will become a weekly show starting in the new year.
Yep.
We're going to have guests. Follow us on Twitter. at Ken Campbell 27.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is it K Campbell or Ken Campbell?
Oh boy.
Check it.
I better check it. This is embarrassing.
Well, it's not that embarrassing.
It's a little embarrassing.
Okay.
Ken _ Campbell 27.
There
Both
we
wrong.
both had it wrong. Yeah.
Not between
Yeah.
the two of us. Yes.
Yes.
Join the Ken Campbell Hockey Unfiltered podcast where 2 heads are equal to 1.
We take turns sharing the brain.
We'll see whose turn it is next week. Thanks for sticking around. Just more of this. We're going to be covering more breaking news stuff in upcoming episodes. This was just sort of a year in review to get us started. And take care. Have a great new year.
A great 2022. Yeah. All the best.
Great 2022.